What's up, my name is Rich. Welcome back to another video. In this video right here, we're going to discuss purchasing equipment for your clothing brand or outsourcing the whole thing. All right, so first and foremost, before you get into this whole printing business or clothing brand business, you got to understand this whole thing can be done two different ways. You don't always have to have the equipment, and having equipment can also run you in different directions. So first and foremost, when you get into building your clothing brand or your printing business, you have to really understand which business model you're going to go with. So a lot of people that I know usually likes to go both routes. You purchase equipment, and you can also print B2B, print for other t-shirt brands, print for other businesses, as well as build your own clothing brand on the side. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Some of the pros and cons of that would be, if you focus on printing for somebody else, that takes time away from you building your clothing brand. And whenever you're starting to build your clothing brand, it's hard to get those initial sales, especially if you don't have all of the knowledge to do everything. When it comes to printing for somebody else, it's easy to get those orders coming in because everybody always needs printing, right? So it's easier to lock in those deals, and you could always use those sales to invest in your clothing brand. So right there, you just really got to find your balance. But maybe that's not something that you want to do. Maybe you just want to do the clothing brand. But when it comes to the clothing brand, I know you see equipment and you see how easy it can be done. There is like a slight learning curve. But as far as coming to heat presses and whatnot, heat presses are quite affordable. For something cheap, it's like $200-300. For like an affordable, decent one, range like $500. Solid Geonite, Hottronics and stuff is going for like $1,000, $2,000, almost $3,000 and whatnot. Those are all pretty affordable pricings, especially with what you can do with it. However, it's not absolutely necessary for you to bring it into house. Just because you get sales for your clothing brand and you purchase the equipment and you can keep some of the money in-house, that doesn't necessarily mean you make more money. So I always hear this: you make more money by purchasing the equipment, you keep it in-house. That's not necessarily true. You make more profit, but that doesn't always mean you make more sales. Now, it is a decent amount of profit margin that you will save by bringing it in-house, but it takes a little more skill, it takes a little more learning, and that also takes away from you building your actual clothing brand. And now let's say you are building your clothing brand, you're getting a whole bunch of sales, and you still want to keep things in-house. Now you're going to have the conflict of finding skilled workers to keep all of your items printing so you can keep that profit margin in-house. So that'll be some of the first challenges that you will meet by keeping production in-house. And I somewhat kind of hate the fact that, you say you make more money by keeping it in-house. It's not exactly true. You make more profit, you don't make more money. You don't make more sales just by having equipment. You got to focus on getting sales still. Let's say you did 10 grand in sales last month, keeping the profit margin healthy. You got like a 50-60% profit margin. So what? You profit like 6 grand because you kept the equipment in-house. But let's say you had a lower profit margin, 30-40%, but you did 100 grand in sales because all you did was focus on sales, but you don't have any of the equipment. You didn't keep the profit margin in-house. You didn't keep more profit by having equipment. You outsourced everything. You have a lower profit margin. If you did like 30-40%, then you had 30-40 grand profit. Just because you have equipment doesn't mean you make more money. Now, I'm not trying to stray you away from purchasing equipment. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. You just really have to define your business model. Do you want to print for other brands? Do you want to print for your own? Or do you want to do a mixture of the two? If you want to do the mixture of the two, make sure you have structure. I still see on Instagram, I don't know why, you have a print shop, you have your brand, it's all on one page, and you don't even have a website that says DM us for quotes. You really need to have a system for everything to scale, for everything to work properly. You have your brand, it needs its own website. You have printing, it needs its own website. You need sections where they can just place their order. For your brand, you need your items up there where they can place their order. It has to be that simple where whenever you wake up, you get on the computer and you can see all your orders. You can't sit there all day and give out quotes to your emails and quotes to your DMs. At that point, when it's time to scale, if you have systems in place, when it's time to scale, you're just scaling and fulfilling orders instead of you having to hire 4 or 5 VAs or customer service reps to give out quotes. And at this point in time, I'm probably going a little bit off topic, but you have to understand there's pros and cons to owning your own equipment and outsourcing everything. So whenever purchasing your own equipment, you got to have the capital to invest. It can be pretty low nowadays. However, you still got to have the capital to invest. And then you have your slight learning curve. And then from there, you really have to understand even all of the equipments, the pros and cons to all of the equipments, dye sublimation, direct to garment, direct to film, heat transfers. You have to understand if you even want to purchase just the heat press and outsource all the transfers, or if you want to purchase the heat press and buy all the printers as well. And that's an even larger learning curve because everybody has their own opinion on every single printing process, and every single printing process has their pros and cons. You know, you got your direct to film for a solid printer. I've been looking at it's like 20 grand for the printer. For a solid printer with a dryer, you got to keep that thing running. So far, I'm seeing the maintenance is still like DTG. DTG is the same thing. You got to keep that thing running. Got to run maintenance on it. But it's good for one-offs, full color, and both of the prints are amazing. However, those are large amounts of capitals for those machines. And then you got screen printing. Screen printing, you can start relatively cheap for like a manual press, but then you can't really do one-offs, and colors will be an issue. Heat transfer vinyl is literally one of the easiest things to get into, especially for simple designs and especially for simple colors. Like you could even do this shirt right here in heat transfer vinyl. It'd probably be even easier if you did it all in just 2 colors. You did all the text in 1 color and then you did the ninja in 1 color. So I highly recommend if you just jump into doing t-shirts and you want to purchase some kind of equipment just to get your feet wet, it's like a heat transfer vinyl cutter. And honestly, you can make a lot of income with heat transfer vinyl cutter. You really just have to target on what it's proficient on, what you can do with it that you can't do with other stuff. Like naming numbers for baseball teams and whatnot, it's almost undefeatable with the heat transfer vinyl cutter. So that's already a lot to take in when it comes to equipment. And when you get the equipment, it's easier to get sales for printing for somebody else. And then you might end up stuck with that business model if you're trying to do a clone line. Now, when it comes to doing a clone line and outsourcing everything instead of investing in equipment, your profit margins may be slightly smaller. You might make a little bit less. However, you have more time to focus on sales. You have more time to focus on new designs. You have a lot more time on your hands. However, it does take a little bit more capital because now you have to focus on, if you're getting stuff screen printed, you're going to have to invest a little more because you're going to have to get quite a few printed. And then now we even come into the argument of keeping it very cheap by doing like print on demand. When it comes to print on demand, the pros and cons of doing print on demand or outsourcing it locally yourself, find like a local direct-to-garment printer that you have a good relationship with. When it comes to using a print on demand service like Printify or something, you don't exactly have quality control. When things like Christmas come around, it's kind of hard to trust it, things of that nature. And especially if you're building a clothing brand, you know, that quality control is pretty important. So that's something you want to consider whenever you're doing print on demand, using a print on demand service or outsourcing the print and still handling it yourself and finding a way to fulfill it yourself. But even just fulfilling it yourself takes quite a bit of time. When it comes to print on demand, you're pretty hands-free. You have to put your trust into them, but you're pretty hands-free and you can focus on more sales. If anything, if we got anything out of this video, the most important thing, of course, is sales. But where you invest is up to you. And there's really no right or wrong way to do it. There's a lot of people who build their brands and does the printing as well. 2 different entities within one building. And it works out amazing. And there's other people who just do a clothing brand and outsource everything. And it happens to be amazing. It's really all about making sure you have the right structure and making sure you have the right systems in place. So if you're doing both, it can run flawlessly simultaneously. It's all about having a system in place, finding the right balance of time for yourself, and figuring out what works for you. And the majority of the time, all you really need to do is sit down and write down the pros and cons to both and really define what you want to do. So literally sit down, write everything down. We went through like a glimpse of it. Write everything down and see if that's something you want to do. Think into the future when it comes to scaling. If you're doing production for your clone brand, you have the screen printing, you have everything, and when it's time for you to get off of the printing, will it be easier for you to find a skilled employee who's going to be able to print for you? Or will it be easier to outsource everything to another screen printer, take a little less profit margin, and it being easier to find an employee to just fulfill orders for you, because it takes a little more skill. You're gonna have to pay a little more for somebody to do all the production for you. You train them and learn all that themselves and making sure they're doing a good job and they checking the quality and printing for you and all that. So it's gonna be kind of harder to find somebody like that. And listen, of course it can be done, but you literally have to write all these things down, weigh out all the pros and cons to everything, the amount of capital you'll be investing into equipment, the type of doors that's going to open for you by you generating sales for printing up for other businesses, or will it be better for you to go into doing a clothing brand, outsourcing everything and handling that type of business. And I'm going to emphasize on this part a lot. You really have to decide on what you want to do creatively. Like, will you get outburned creatively printing for somebody else? Or will you be more passionate about building your own clothing brand and attempting to do your own designs and trying to get that to market? Now, the clothing brand part is a little harder, but it can be a little more fulfilling even if you're making less, because then you're like completely in your own creative control. But when you're printing and stuff, do you get fulfillment out of pushing it? Do you get fulfillment out of just running that business in general? I mean, because I know a lot of you all who are watching are just passionate about building a goddamn business. So I really hope this answers some of the questions when it comes to either purchasing equipment, printing it yourself, or outsourcing everything. So once again, I appreciate y'all watching. If y'all want some cool gear, some cool merch, a chance to win something for the month, right now we're giving away a Geonite heat press 16 by 20 and a Graphtec Cutter similar to this one, but the 15-inch version. We're stepping it up from last month's giveaway. Last month we did the Cameo Cutter, as well as we ended up doing a WalaPress heat press. So the winner of that was, I believe his name was Spinhouse Designs. We'll have it up on the website soon as he receives all of the items. But congratulations to him for winning. Like I said, we're doing this every single month. OnlyNinjas.com. Every single dollar is one entry into the giveaway. All you gotta do is purchase a piece of merch or anything and you're automatically entered into the giveaway. This month, Geonite 16 by 20 auto heat press, along with a Graphtec 15-inch cutter. That's pretty freaking major. That's major, man. My name is Rich. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, comment, like, subscribe. Said like twice. See you next time.
Hey Hustle Ninja, thanks for watching. Remember, if you want to support the channel and have the chance to win a giveaway to help your clothing brand, be sure to check out OnlyNinjas.com. Also, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And stay hustling.